Hi, my name is Michael Dominguez. I'm with the Doors to Wealth Real Estate Group, and I am absolutely thrilled to be able to meet and interview Don Campbell. He's been my mentor for a number of years in the real estate
We're not
sector.
that old, man. Come on, it's not that many years.
And so anyway, I'm really happy that you're here to
Me too.
talk to.
I'm looking forward to digging in.
So what I want to do today is I want to ask you some national questions, break it down into a couple of provincial questions, then I'm going to ask you some GTA area questions, and then finally finish off with the Durham Region.
Where's the Durham region? Is that around the GTA
I'll
somewhere?
walk you through that.
Okay, good.
So the first question I have is, the shiny penny is always fun to look at. There's lots of talk about vacation rentals around the world, and sometimes we need sort of an international perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the world see Canadian real estate?
Well, they see it as a safe. So what we're finding is that up until the last 2 years, it's really been shown and felt like a safe haven. You've got lots of Middle East money coming in. You've got lots of Turkish money coming in. Everybody just says it's all Chinese money, and that's not true. We do have lots from Asia, but it's all over American money. So we're as a nation considered a place where you can park your capital and just forget about. And then the last couple of years, provincially and federally, that seems to be on the radar, and they want to, for some reason, slow that down. And today they announced that there was a dramatic drop in money coming here. It's now moving to the U.S. because of the tax rules dropping there, and here we don't have that advantage anymore. Mm-hmm. We're still considered a safe haven, but not with great returns. So that's where we're at right now.
So most of the attention nationally is on the new mortgage rules and the rising interest rates. How are these things affecting Canadians and their ability to qualify for a mortgage?
I think it's going to. What's happening is that a lot of the politicians and legislative people are putting their capes on, their super person capes, and they're flying in because the hottest topic right now is housing. So the problem is they're not coordinating their efforts. So we've got OSFI tightening the mortgage rules. Mm-hmm. So we saw lots of sales in December, as you would know, and then a slowdown in January. Well, all that did was it just moved the sales that would have been in January into December, and that's why the numbers look so tight in January and February. You will start to see the market come back up. Just read Secrets of the Canadian Real Estate Cycle, Chapter 5 will explain the whole darn thing to you about government influence. But what it's doing is it's actually starting to, you've got that, and then you've got the National Housing Program, and you've got the provincial rules, what do they call it here now in Ontario, the Housing Act, or the Fair Housing Act. And all of those are piling on to start creating a nation of renters. And that's going to slow the sales down on the purchase side. Doesn't mean that the prices are going to collapse or anything. It's just going to slow the tear that we've been on for quite a while. And it's going to start to create more renters. So if you're in the landlord business, if you're buying investment properties, that's a good thing. That means that you're starting to think like a strategic investor instead of a consumer. If you're thinking like a consumer, you're going, what are they doing? Oh my God, they're going to collapse the market. Who cares? As a matter of fact, if they do that and the confidence goes down, your renters are going to stay longer. So it depends on how you're looking at the market. So that's, if the governments had coordinated, they could have done this really, really well. But unfortunately, right now, they're just throwing lots of stuff against the wall. Yeah.
So in that vein, now let's break down into Ontario. We all know that it's an election year coming up, and we may see an eventual change in the landscape, but let's deal with what we know right now. Ontario,
By the way, when it comes to election time, don't get me to guess who's going to win, because some of the things that have won across this country recently is just, it doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
And we're starting to experience the results of that, both federally and provincially.
Sure.
And I don't care how politically you are, we have to look at the policies. And so there is an election year, so lots of announcements that are going to come that will never come to fruition, and they'll freak people out, and we'll have even more renters.
Economically, Ontario is doing quite well right now. We're at or above national averages historically.
You should be, because of your big size.
And yes,
as well, right?
And we are seeing population growth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see Ontario as a viable place to invest in real estate going forward?
No, I don't see Ontario as a viable place to invest in, but I do specifically know that there's some specific cities and neighborhoods that are going to be amazing investments. So we can't take a big brush on Ontario and say, the thing about Wawa is not the same thing about downtown Toronto.
Sure.
And so, yes, the answer is there are some tremendous opportunities because of these new policies, because there are no new rentals being built, because we're bringing in 1 million immigrants to the country over the next 3 years. That's 330,000 people moving in. And where do immigrants generally go to? They go to the larger centers.
Cities.
And larger centers are going to be supported very, very well. But you do have to make sure that you're looking at the immigration, the in-migration, so the population that's moving in, and more importantly, the millennials, and where they're going to want to live, because right now they're in mom and dad's basement, a lot of them, not all of them, I know, but a lot of them, and they're going to enter the market eventually too, either as renters or buyers. So there's a big, visualize a dam that's filling up behind all these potential buyers and renters who usually would be in the market by now, but have not. And the pressure on that dam is pretty high, and they all vote. And so get ready for lots of announcements around election time.
So you already mentioned the Fair Housing Act, and it's receiving a ton of headlines. And some policies took place actually that were fairly similar in British Columbia 6 to 12 months before that. So do you feel that the two policies were relatively similar? And if so, what are we seeing in British Columbia that we can perhaps be using as a forecast for what's going to happen in
Very
Ontario?
prescient. That tells me that you know what you're doing in the market, because governments follow governments because they don't want to be first often, so they will see another government take a policy and throw it into the marketplace, and then everybody will watch. All the bureaucrats will watch, all the politicians will watch and see how it plays out. And then they'll adjust and put it into theirs. And that's what we saw Ontario do with foreign buyer tax and those kind of things that were talked about. Now British Columbia has raised the foreign buyer tax. They've expanded it, but the really, I don't want to say it's a bad policy because it's not written yet. They just put it out in the budget, is this speculator tax. So if you own a second property and it's not rented out full time, you're going to have to pay a 2% of the value tax every single year into this big pot, and you know what's going to happen to that pot. It's just going to get dispersed everywhere. So lots of pushback in British Columbia around that right now, but at the same time, the Ontario government's watching that. And if it has an effect that becomes positive in the voters' eyes in British Columbia, that puppy's coming here. There's no question. It might not be written exactly the same. So for instance, say you own a property, you say you live in Durham Region, but you've decided you want to have a second property in Niagara, in a wine region. It's just a small place to get away for your family. That second property, if it was in British Columbia, you would be taxed 2% of the value every single year.
That's if you're a foreigner.
No.
No, that's for all.
Yes. Unless you can prove it's fully rented for 12 months and.
Right.
So
But how are they going to be following that up?
Exactly. You ask them that, because I think it's they're taxing everybody, and then you have to negatively prove. So everyone's getting
So
taxed.
guilty until proven innocent.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you're going to have to show, however they're going to want to show it, that it's either fully rented out 12 months of the year or you're living it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not interesting, scary.
Well, but what about going back to the, so we've been seeing a bit of an improvement in British Columbia now. Are we not seeing their market starting to bounce back, or is that?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. But that's the Vancouver market.
Right.
The Abbotsford market, like the Fraser Valley market, where the ripple effect has been, there's not been a foreign buyer tax on there, so some of the money has moved out that way, but frankly, it's just because it's more affordable. Just Toronto was just
Ripple
getting
effect.
ridiculously out of control. And so it is about an affordability thing. And the interesting program, the interesting process that we're seeing in British Columbia is that it's coming back to exactly where it's supposed to be on the cycle. And that's, once again, the cycle book we talked about, is real estate goes through a cycle. It's economically and demographically driven. It always has, it always will. It's my 26th year. I've been through enough of these ups and downs. But it's when the influencers, such as interest rates, legislation, all those different, there's 7 influencers that come into play and knock it off its cycle. but it works really hard to get back to its cycle because that's just, the level water point, and that's what we're starting to see in BC. It's coming back.
All right, let's bring it back to the GTA then. The Greater Toronto Area.
Is that Grand Theft Auto?
It
is
is
it a
not.
video game? It's not? Is
It's
it?
actually a term for Greater Toronto Area, just so you know. It's been a continual run of success.
Yes.
There's really not been a downturn in a generation in the Greater Toronto Area. Is there any reasonable?
There's that dip in 2007 when everybody thought it was over.
For
about
6
a
months?
minute.
Or, okay.
Yeah, a minute and a half. Yeah.
And then there was a bit of a dip last year, but we still finished the year up.
Yeah.
Is there any reasonable reason to think why the housing and rental markets could see a prolonged downturn in the Greater Toronto Area?
Yeah, because there could be. I don't forecast that would be, but you asked me the word could.
Yeah.
And could there? Yes, absolutely, because we're heading into an election year. And
So through policy is
through policy, not through
Economics.
economics, not through demographics, frankly, not even through interest rates. I just got the report today that says that this is the lowest percentage of people in arrears in their mortgage in Ontario in history.
Yeah, I've actually heard that.
So people are paying their mortgages. Canadians pay their mortgages. We're not Americans, where we can mail the keys in. And so you are going to see a slowdown, a softening, as they keep throwing these policies and trying to tighten it up. But that's okay. It happens. The market has to breathe. And what happened in Calgary and Edmonton is that we as investors there, we're getting used to 20% increases every year. Then it only went up like 2% one year, and everybody goes, "Oh, this is ridiculous." But that's more reality. 3 to 5% is pretty good, right? And then so it's so funny how short of a memory that we can have. As an investor, I'm picking properties very specifically to understand that it's my customers are going to be millennial renters, and or in-migration, so from other provinces. We really going to pay close attention to where those people are going to live, where the jobs are, and whether they can afford it. Vancouver came out. I've been pushing the city of Vancouver and the province and the feds to define the word affordable, because they throw it around like it's nothing, right? It's like, well, we need more affordable housing. And I have been leaning into them hard.
They just posted a number that you had said it was a huge number.
That's right. So Vancouver finally came out right after I did this other podcast, and it was just kind of funny. And they said, "Yep, if you're going to be involved in our policy around affordable housing, a 2-bedroom unit affordable suite is a 680 square foot 2-bedroom property that is $2,505 a month." How is that affordable?
Yeah.
That it makes that, to me. So they've been talking.
At least they defined it.
They've been talking through their hat, because people hear the word of affordable, and the word affordable is affordable. The government got one of the policies that they promised was a $400 a year rental rebate. So what is that? $36 a month.
Right.
And everybody went crazy because they only heard $400. Well, how is $36 a month off a $2,505 rent going to help anybody? It's not. So I think that the hypocrisy is getting a little heavy, and policy is just, right now it's all about getting votes rather than making a difference.
So I'm going to give you a retro style analogy. I know you like these things.
All
We're
right.
going to take our DeLorean time machine into the future here.
Do I get to be Doc?
Yeah,
I got the hair for it.
yeah, all right. I'll be Marty.
Yeah, okay.
And we're taking it 20 years in the future. What's the GTA looking like? And
Flying cars, man.
and
Run by Uber.
and what is the housing and rental markets going to look like at
We
that
have to densify. The 2006 Places to Grow Act in Ontario is causing part of this problem, but I believe in the act because you want to protect green spaces. So, but you can believe in something, but it's still going to have an effect. And so you're going to see densification. You're going to see densification farther out, like into the Durham region. They're going to have to change their policies. They're going to have to densify even more. You're going to find farmland, like in Bradford area, to become even more expensive because that green space that can grow food is going to be more important. We can't by then, that's 20 years, right?
Yep.
By then, the effect of Trump should be over, unless they've been able to put him in a jar, like in Futurama, and then he
with
gets
just
to
the head, right.
Yeah. So there possibly could be a little bit cooler, but let's be realistic. Policies and politics are going to play a role. We can't predict what they're going to do. We can predict demographic. People are moving here in
It's
Ontario,
gonna grow.
and you're going to need to expand, if like in the Durham region and the GTA, et cetera, you're going to need to expand ways for which people can get around. And people are going to fight, and it's amazing. I've seen so many LRTs and things built around the world, except in Toronto and in Ottawa. It's taken so many years for anybody just to decide where to put the damn thing. Governments have to lead, not by populace, but they need to lead. They say, we're going to put this darn thing here. And once that happens, then you densify around the stations. Therefore, you're environmentally friendly. You're bringing more affordable housing, because it's not single-family homes. It's going to look more like New York, where a single-family home in New York just really, frankly, doesn't exist. That densification has to happen because the population is coming here. Our federal government's bringing people in from all over the world. You have to put them in a house.
So within the GTA,
Yes.
we're introducing our top 10 towns in tomorrow, I guess it's
Tomorrow,
gonna be.
yes.
Without getting into, well, I can ask you a little bit of specifics. Are there going to be any GTA area towns that are in the top 10? And
Yes.
if so, how many?
The answer is yes.
Fair enough. So we're going to break it into the Durham region.
And I'm going to say,
Yeah, okay.
I should break that in. There are more people who live in the GTA
Right.
than live in the province of Alberta.
Absolutely.
So we have to understand that the GTA isn't of itself its own economy and its own, it's pretty well its own province, right? Ottawa doesn't dig GTA. GTA doesn't dig Ottawa.
Sure.
So it's not. It's its own vibrant thing. So maybe you've just given me this idea. Maybe what we should do is the top 10 neighborhoods in the GTA is its own standalone report because it's so big and it's so lots of populace.
And this is where my lead-in coming in, though, and it was sort of a two-part question, is the biggest challenge we have is, as a longtime student of the Real Estate Investment
Yes.
Network,
Yeah.
there's a REIN score, and unfortunately, in the GTA,
Super tough.
There really isn't an opportunity to get into the REIN score to make it work. The Durham region has been, in my experience, one of the best of the best in terms of the GTA, in terms of coming close to hitting the REIN score.
Exactly. Yeah.
But even that's
especially
not
with
hitting.
secondary suites, et cetera.
Exactly. But despite the fact that none of them are hitting the REIN score, we have as top 10 towns. So how does that contradiction work?
It's not really a contradiction. It's we're looking at the top 10 towns, the towns that are going to outperform the rest of the province.
Yep.
So if the rest of the province is 0, you're only looking for the towns that are going to outperform that 0. And if the rest of the province is expected to go down, these ones are the least risky and therefore will go down the less. We're not going to say, hey, by the way, if you buy in these towns, it's going to go up 10%. And that's the difference between the REIN score and what this report's going to do. This report has taken 3 and a bit months, lots of arguing. As Jen and I will explain tomorrow, it's
Right.
debating, it's not arguing, as she will try to explain, but it was arguing about where each town should sit and what's going to provide the best opportunity given the demographics and the economics for somebody in Ontario who wants to help create their dreams and help put their kids through university, through investing in real estate or owning in real estate. And these towns that we're going to talk about, or these regions, there's a couple of regions in there, are going to be the ones that are going to outperform the rest of the province.
So what do you like and what might concern you going forward in the Durham region, specifically Durham?
Durham region. Well, you know what? What's interesting about the Durham region, we spent a lot of time studying the Durham region because it's each town, each city has its own kind of dynamic. It's funny to watch Oshawa coming out of its kind of, oh my God, what if GM closes?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to watch the 407 and how people are ignoring the 407, but the 407, if I'm an investor, I'm focusing on that extension and that expansion. because that's where the people, the demographics and economics are going to, that's where the people are going to go. You're starting to see, I'm less concerned about policy now than I was a few years ago in the Durham region for secondary suites and densification. At least the conversation's being had, and there are obviously some opportunities in there, which you and I have talked about before. But the population is going to be pushed out that direction. The GO train needs to be as longer, busier, more frequent. It's going to have to, because the freeway, as you know, once you're on the highway there, you just can't get anywhere when everybody wants to get anywhere. So my concern is that the infrastructure will not keep up with the demand. The demand is going to be there.
And that could limit the long-term growth potential.
It will slow the long-term growth potential, absolutely. Because people go, well, fine, I'll go to Barrie, because the GO train's going to be expanding there, and it's going to be... So, and that's the thing that we as leaders and politicians as leaders need to pay really close attention to, is that people have choice. And people don't mind moving now if it's going to serve their lifestyle. People live in the Durham region because it's an awesome place to live. And it's not just because it's close to the GTA. It's an awesome place to live. There are good jobs in the Pickering and all those kind of areas. Are they not expanding, or it's like a 20-year project they're building
For which one?
for Pickering, right? They're
No,
revamping
Darlington's
it. Darlington, yes, that's it. Yeah.
And also, well, I'm sure you know, GO is supposed to be out to Clarington by
Clarington.
2024.
Yeah.
Which, again, they purchased the land, but they haven't actually shoveled the ground.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
had that conversation. So, okay, that's valid.
You have to have this. You have to have a good realtor on the ground. You have to. You can't be sitting on MLS. It's too late. You can't be sitting in your basement going, hey, I wonder if there's any deals. I can't find no deals. It's got to be if you don't have a team looking for properties for you in the Durham region, you are going to miss out. You or the viewers or whoever. Right? You can't do it alone, and especially in a market like that, because it's tougher. You have to be creative. You have to find deals that may never hit MLS. But at the end of the day, without a team, you're going to miss out.
I'm going to go tad east just for a sec,
Sure.
in the Northumberland area, which is Coburg and Port Hope,
yeah.
and the Kawartha area, which is Peterborough and Lindsay.
Mhm.
Do you have any particular thoughts on those markets?
I
that are
really hope
outside?
that Peterborough is going to hit the top 10. Like I had it on my secret. We all had our
You're
secret
right.
list.
You're right.
Well, but here's something that you should know, that we don't make a list and then do the research to support it.
Right.
We do the research and go, I guess I'm wrong on that one.
Right.
I really thought that Peterborough could, and I still think it's an interesting spot if you become a geographic specialist there and make sure that you know exactly that market and what jobs are coming in and which ones are closing. I think there's a plant that's closing there. It's
General Mills.
but there's something that's
Right.
that's an issue up there. But you are going to see with the 407 getting that a little bit farther out, the GO train getting a little bit farther out till 2024. But who
But the
knows?
407
I'll be 105 by then.
The 407 will be by 2020 for sure at the 115.
Yes,
So
yeah.
you'll be able to go from downtown Peterborough to downtown Markham in 75 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah,
Which is-
and lots of jobs in the market area, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
And more affordable in Peterborough.
Sure.
So if you are a long-term land holder and you believe the government and you believe that Bombardier is going to make enough train cars for the project to work, then I would take a flyer on it, but I would not put my whole portfolio in that town, that area.
So we talked about 2-unit dwellings or secondary suites, that sort of thing. That's pretty much what a large percentage of my portfolio
You pretty well have to, right?
has, the
To make it
secondary
carry.
suites. And many of my clients are doing the same thing. Do you have any secondary suites in your portfolio?
Love it.
And you do have some, and
Yes.
do you believe in that?
Yes, I do,
Yeah.
because I also own dirt then.
Right.
I own lots of condos, some light industrial, some farmland, obviously, and single-family homes. They have that bonus of it's not as volatile because you get the dirt, and the dirt holds
some cachet and some value. And think about it from a demographic point of view. We have millennials who are starting to have babies,
Yeah.
and if you could find a way in which they can live where there's some dirt for them to run, their kids to run around, and it's going to be the demand for that's going to be up. Whether it's affordable to them or not is a different story, and that's why there's secondary suites, the basement suites, or the as we're starting to find more like the garage suites, build the
Garden
garage in
suites,
the
yeah.
back and put them on top. So that's great. Also great for the grandma and grandpas.
Sure.
Grandma and grandpa moving.
Right.
They don't sell their house. They build a phenomenal secondary suite out in the backyard.
Right.
And then their kids move into the house in the front.
And it seems like each of the communities in Ontario and even across Canada are sort of embracing the densification.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, they have to. Actually, in Ontario, you have to.
Well, it's the province that mandated it,
mandated in 2006, and with the Place to Grow Act.
Right.
It's just taken them forever, some of the city councils, to wake up to the fact that, hey, maybe this might be a solution. And then we don't have to keep going out and adding new sewers and new water. We can bring that same populace into town, figure out parking, and go from there. Because parking's always the wild card in that game.
So I'm going to take the DeLorean one more time.
Okay, here we
and,
go.
We're now looking specifically.
Well, Marty.
We're looking specifically in the Durham region, and how would you best position yourself so that we're looking really good in the future?
Single-family homes with secondary suites. If there are any areas that allow you to do carriage suites that are not attached, awesome. They're going to be huge, huge win. And then I will start looking at buying. I know the demand will be in densification. I know the demand will be in the condo market because the young families are going to move out that direction. And they're going to want 2-bedroom or bigger. I would not buy a 1-bedroom, or nor would I buy a micro suite. That's just me. You can do whatever you want.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, but because the gig economy is happening. People need offices. The young millennials need offices because they're working at home, especially if they don't have a shared workspace to work at. It's if I position myself in my DeLorean and I'm going out 10 years or coming back 10 years, I'd buy a lot more units with basement suites or secondary suites, and I would buy more 2-bedroom condos.
And even if the cash flow isn't great in year one, you're still okay with that?
Yeah, as long as I'm not feeding it. I refuse to buy a property that I'm feeding every month because we can all justify $100 or $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just $100.
They're
It's
portfolio
$200.
killers too.
Well, try and get financing
That's right.
on your
On
future properties. And then how frustrating it is that you spent $2,400 in this, and that's great if it's gone up like $24,000 or more. It's not a bad ROI. But when the market flattens out, which it always does and it always will, you're going to go, I'm feeding this thing. It's going flat or going down, and I'm feeding it. How is this getting me closer to financial freedom? And it's not.
I want to thank you for sitting down with me. It was fantastic.
Great.
I really
Glad you
appreciate
were-
everything, and yeah, so thank you again.
Top 10 towns coming up, brother.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Cheers.